I always triple-check door locks. Comes with traveling alone. But this time I wasn't alone, and someone still got in. I'm a travel nurse, which means I move around a lot. New places, new patients, new temporary homes. You learn to stay alert. You learn to double-check things. Locks, windows, exits. I'm not paranoid, just cautious. It's part of the job. So when two of my friends suggested a weekend cabin getaway near Asheville, just us, some wine, good food, and mountain air. It sounded perfect. I was burned out from a long ICU rotation in Durham, and the idea of unwinding sounded like exactly what I needed. We booked a 3-bedroom Airbnb up in the hills. It was modern but tucked into the woods, just outside the Blue Ridge Parkway. You could see the stars at night, and the porch had one of those old rocking chairs that creaked with every gust of wind. The first night was easy. Laughter, grilled veggie skewers, too much rosé. We played cards until midnight and passed out in our rooms without much thought. I do remember locking up before heading to bed. I remember checking the keypad and giving the doorknob a tug, like I always do. The second morning, I noticed something odd. My toiletries bag had been unzipped. Not wide open or anything, just slightly, like someone had peeked inside. I told myself I'd probably done it myself the night before. Maybe I was more tipsy than I thought. That afternoon, Jess asked if either of us had moved her phone charger. It had been on the kitchen counter. None of us had. She found it an hour later on the porch railing. "You probably left it there last night," Bree shrugged. Jess gave her a look. "I didn't even go outside last night." We let it go. Laughed it off. Vacation brain, wine, late nights. But that night, I made sure to lock the front door again. Not just lock it, test it. I punched the code in myself, pulled the handle hard, even tapped the bolt with my knuckle to hear it was set. At 6:13 the next morning, I woke up to light in the hallway and a weird breeze coming through the house. I got up to check and found the back door wide open. Not just unlocked, open. Like someone had pushed it out and forgotten to close it. That door didn't have a keypad, just a regular deadbolt. And I swear, I locked it. Jess swore the same. So unless someone forgot or we were all losing it, that's when the shift happened. The fun vibe of the weekend started feeling thin, almost forced. We still ate breakfast and joked about ghost stories, but we were all watching the shadows a little more. Bree even asked if maybe the place was being used by someone else when it wasn't booked. I pulled up the Airbnb calendar on my phone and showed them. It had been blocked off for a full week just for us. Still, I emailed the host. They were polite, said the cleaning crew was their only other point of access and that no one should have been by. No one. That evening, we didn't drink. We locked both doors, double-checked all the windows, and sat on the porch for a while before heading in. At 10:23 p.m., we heard 3 short beeps. It came from the front door. You know that electronic tone when someone punches in a keypad? Yeah, that. Not an alert from inside the house. The actual sound of the buttons being pressed. I held my breath, turned off the living room light, and crept toward the door. The porch light was still on, but I didn't see anyone through the little window at the top. I checked the lock. It was still in place. But then the beeping happened again. 3 tones, followed by a short pause and a final chirp. That's the sound it makes when you enter the correct code. The lock didn't disengage. I think whoever it was must have panicked or gotten something wrong right at the end. Maybe they mistyped the final digit. Maybe they were just testing it. I backed away and whispered for the girls to grab their phones and stay in their rooms. I called 911, kept my voice low, and told them someone was trying to enter the cabin. By the time a sheriff's deputy arrived 20 minutes later, there was no one out there. No footprints on the porch. just wind-blown leaves and that creaking rocking chair. He walked the perimeter, looked bored, and asked if we were sure we hadn't accidentally locked someone out. Maybe a neighbor, a friend? No, we didn't know anyone in Asheville. When I asked if the door log could be checked, he said that was up to the Airbnb host. He left after saying, "Keep the doors locked," like that was new advice. The next morning, I packed up early. So did Bree and Jess. We were supposed to stay another night, but none of us wanted to. We didn't even talk much in the car, just tense smiles and those weird little laughs people do when they're trying to act normal. I never got a follow-up from the host. Never heard if they looked into the keypad log or if anything was found. But when I went back to my apartment, I changed every password and lock I had. Airbnb, email, phone, everything. Whoever it was knew the code. That meant they either had inside access or had been watching long enough to learn it. My name's Logan. I was 22 when this happened. Summer of 2021, right after finals week. A buddy of mine, Sam, had this rental house just off campus in Denton. Nothing fancy, but it had a decent backyard, string lights, a fire pit, and most importantly, no nosy neighbors. Perfect for a summer kickback. That Saturday night, a group of us threw a casual barbecue. Nothing wild. Just people from class, some folks from the coffee shop I worked at, and a few randoms who tagged along with friends. You know how those things go. Music playing, cheap beer in the cooler, someone always burning the burgers, that kind of vibe. I think we were about 4 hours in, probably close to midnight, when she showed up. No one saw her arrive. She wasn't with anyone. She just sort of appeared. 1 second, it was the usual crowd. The next, there was this girl standing by the fire pit, drink in hand, smiling like she belonged there. Short brown hair, big dark eyes, plain jeans, and a white t-shirt. Kind of quiet. Friendly enough when spoken to, but didn't really initiate conversation. Everyone assumed she came with someone else. That's the unspoken rule at parties like that. You don't question the plus ones. She drifted from group to group, always smiling, always nodding like she was in on the joke. I remember thinking she had this stillness about her. Not stiff, exactly, just measured. Like she was trying not to stand out. A few hours went by. People started heading inside to charge their phones, use the bathroom, grab more drinks. I went in to throw away some paper plates and noticed her standing at the end of the hallway by the bedrooms. "Hey," I said, kind of casual. "Bathroom's back there, but the bedrooms are off limits." She didn't answer right away. Just looked at me, smiled faintly, and said, "I was looking for my friend. Thought she came in here." I nodded, even though it didn't really make sense. "Cool. Just, yeah, not much to see down that way." She gave a tiny nod and walked past me into the kitchen. I didn't think much of it. Not until about 15 minutes later, when I saw Chelsea coming down the stairs looking pissed. "Someone's been in your room," she told Sam. He looked confused. "Like, recently?" "Yeah, drawer's open. I had cash in there. It's gone." Now people were paying attention. A few of us started asking around. Nobody had seen anyone upstairs. Nobody had seen anyone suspicious, except me. I mentioned the girl. Quiet, short hair, white tee. No one could figure out who she came with. And suddenly, she wasn't outside anymore. Sam checked the front door. Unlocked. We had no idea how long she'd been gone. We called the cops, mostly to get a report on file. They took statements, checked for fingerprints, didn't find much. The weirdest part came the next morning. Sam's next-door neighbor, Mr. Garza, stopped by. He's retired, always kind of keeps an eye on the block. Told us someone broke into his place that night. Nothing major taken, just some small electronics and jewelry. He showed us the footage from his ring cam. There she was. Same girl. Same clothes. Walking up to his door just after 3 a.m., looking around, slipping inside like she had a key. Except the door was locked, and the cam never caught her coming out. The police said it might be a local thief who blends in at parties, targets college neighborhoods, but it didn't sit right with me. She didn't move like someone casing a place. She moved like someone who already knew the layout, who already knew us. I remember people laughing about it the next day. Like, whoa, crazy night, huh? Denton always got weirdos. But I kept picturing her, standing in that hallway, watching. Like we'd invited her without knowing it. Like she belonged there more than we did. I teach 7th grade English, so trust me when I say my summer breaks are sacred. That August, a few of us decided to rent a cabin up in the Poconos for the weekend. Teachers, nurses, one software guy, just a mix of friends looking to unplug. We were all burned out from a rough school year, and honestly, just chilling by a fire with a drink sounded like heaven. No emails, no alarms, no one yelling about Chromebooks. The cabin was gorgeous, tucked back into the trees, with a wraparound porch and giant windows that made it feel like you were floating in the woods. There was no cell service, which was half the point. You had to drive 10 minutes back toward the highway just to get a signal. The first night was all laughter and wine and terrible card games. We stayed up until almost 2, telling stories and arguing over who snored the loudest. The next morning, I was making coffee when Carrie came in from the back porch, looking kind of weird. "You saw someone last night, right?" she asked. I blinked at her. "Saw someone where?" She pointed through the trees behind the cabin. "Out there." I woke up around 4 and looked out the bedroom window. Thought I saw someone standing in the woods. The others trickled in as she was telling me, and we all brushed it off. Probably just a shadow or a tree that caught her eye half asleep. Carrie didn't push it, but I noticed she didn't sit with her back to the window the rest of the morning. That afternoon, we went into town for snacks and beer, and when we got back, the front door was locked. But one of the back windows, a small one in the kitchen, was open about 2 inches. None of us remembered opening it. I closed it. Didn't say anything. It was probably nothing. Saturday night, things got weird again. We were sitting around the fire pit just after midnight, and I kept catching movement in the trees. You know how your eyes play tricks on you when it's dark and the firelight flickers. But this felt different. It was like someone ducking just out of view. Anyone else feel like we're being watched? Joel laughed. He was the software guy. Smart, loud, always making jokes. We all kind of laughed it off too. Told ghost stories to make it feel like a game. But when we turned in for the night, I closed every curtain in the bedroom. I couldn't explain it, but something felt off. The next morning was beautiful. Warm sunlight, birds everywhere, the smell of pine and coffee and sunscreen. We were planning to go kayaking, but Carrie came back from a morning walk looking pale. "Come with me," she said, grabbing my wrist. About 50 feet into the woods, hidden in the hollow of an old tree trunk, was a phone. Not hers, not mine, none of ours. It was propped inside the tree with a twig like a makeshift stand. The screen was black, but when I picked it up, it buzzed. Still charged, no passcode. The Photos app was open, and what we saw made my knees go weak. Hundreds of videos. Us, sitting by the fire, floating in the lake, carrying groceries into the cabin, sleeping. Some of them were taken from above, like from the second-story window. Others were filmed through cracks in the curtains. One of me brushing my hair in the bathroom, another of Joel scratching his stomach in his boxers while making breakfast. There were even clips of us talking about work, about dumb things like politics and what cereal brand is best. Private moments, mundane moments. But someone had been there, listening, watching, recording. We all stood in the living room, phone in the center of the coffee table like it might explode. No one said anything for a long time. When we finally checked the rest of the property, we didn't find anything else. No gear, no signs of someone camping nearby. We called the rental owner who drove up that afternoon with her brother. She was genuinely shocked and promised to file a report. The cops took the phone. We gave statements. That night, none of us slept. The final clip we remembered seeing was time-stamped 11:03 p.m. the night before we found it. It was filmed from just outside the bathroom window. You could see me brushing my teeth, humming a little tune I didn't even remember singing. And right at the end of the clip, I looked straight at the camera. Right through the window. Right at whoever was holding that phone. I didn't know. I didn't feel it. But somehow they were close enough to see the color of my eyes. I always take the same route home. I live in a residential neighborhood in Burbank, not the fancy part with studios and tourists, but the quieter section near Glen Oaks. You know, the kind with palm trees, cracked sidewalks, and two-bedroom houses that all look like they were built in the same year. I just finished my shift at the summer camp I work at. 7 hours of sunscreen, yelling over kids, and crafting glittery chaos. My legs were tired, and I was sweaty and hungry, but the sun was finally going down, and there was a light breeze. It felt calm. The bus dropped me off around 7:40, like usual. There were still a few kids playing basketball at the park across the street. Birds chirped, sprinklers hissed, and I popped in one earbud as I crossed the street and started my 10-minute walk home. She caught my eye right then. At first, I thought she was just another teenager. Black Converse, faded backpack, long dark hair. She couldn't have been more than a year older, or younger than me. She was maybe a block behind, walking the same direction. I didn't overthink it. People live in neighborhoods. People walk. But I'm cautious by nature. My mom drilled it into me from an early age. Trust your gut. Cross the street if something feels weird. Never keep both earbuds in. So when I reached the corner near that old lavender house with the chipped porch, I slowed down. I pretended to tie my shoe and look behind me. She had slowed too. Still walking. Still watching the sidewalk. Okay, maybe coincidence. I turned left down Chestnut, a quieter street, fewer streetlights. If she turned too, that would be my sign. And she did. Same pace, same distance. I kept walking a little faster now, one earbud out. I told myself not to be dramatic. Maybe she was just going home. Maybe she lived on this street. Maybe. Then she sped up. I didn't hear her, just the crunch of sneakers speeding up behind me. Not running, just faster. Like she was closing the gap. So I turned. Not dramatically, just enough to make it obvious that I saw her. She smiled. I didn't know what to do. I half smiled back out of politeness and kept walking. That's what you're taught to do, right? Don't overreact. Be polite. Be cautious, but not rude. At the corner of Chestnut and Alcott, I stopped. That's where the little community library box is, the one with peeling paint and a bunch of old Stephen King paperbacks inside. I pretended to browse, letting her pass me if she was going to. But she didn't. She stopped too, a few feet away. still smiling. Now I was sure. I took a breath and said, "Hey, are you okay? Do you need something?" She tilted her head like she didn't understand the question. Then she said, "I've seen your bedroom window." I stared at her. She added, almost sing-song, "You keep the fan on." My mouth went dry. She was right. I live in a one-story house. My window faces the street, but it's shaded by bushes and trees. You can't see it unless you stop and look. And even then, you'd have to know what to look for. I stepped back. She kept standing there. Her smile didn't change. It wasn't menacing. It wasn't friendly either. It was fixed. "What do you want?" I asked. She didn't answer, just turned around and walked away. No rush, no looking back. She didn't run. She didn't laugh. She just disappeared around the corner, like she'd finished what she came for. I didn't wait. I ran the rest of the way home, skipping my usual turns and doubling back once to make sure she wasn't following again. When I got inside, I locked the door and went straight to my window. The fan was still humming, pointed toward my bed. And yeah, the curtain had been pulled halfway back. Anyone standing across the street at night could have seen in, could have seen me sleeping. I told my mom everything. She didn't hesitate, called the non-emergency police line and filed a report. An officer came by that night. I gave a description. About my age, maybe 5'6", long dark hair, jeans, no tattoos or markings I noticed. But the weirdest part? They couldn't find her. Nobody matching that description lived nearby. No other reports. No one had seen her hanging around. I showed the officer where I thought she'd been watching me from, and he just kind of nodded, took notes, and said, "It's probably just someone messing around." But here's what messes with me. A few days later, I found something in the bushes outside my window. It was a bracelet. One of those cheap plastic kinds you get from vending machines. Purple beads. Too small for an adult. I hadn't seen it before. My mom hadn't either. I still don't know if it was hers, or if she left it on purpose. But after that night, I kept the window shut. Every single night. Fan or no fan. I don't even like walking home from the bus stop anymore. And here's the part I never told anyone. Not even my mom. 2 weeks after that, I was scrolling through Instagram. You know how the people you may know feature sometimes shows you mutuals? She popped up. No name, just a blank account. No followers, no posts. But the profile picture was unmistakable. It was her. Same smile, same eyes, same expression. And in the background of that profile picture, my street. I don't know if she ever came back, but I haven't slept with the window open since. There was a blackout, so I figured my eyes were playing tricks. But that shape didn't go away. We don't get a lot of intense storms in Albany, not like down south. But that night was different. It started around 7, big rolling thunder and wind that kicked up like it had something to prove. I had the windows open to let in some breeze, and then everything went dead. The lights, my monitors, the fridge, the ceiling fan, all gone. I grabbed a flashlight from the junk drawer and lit a couple candles. No big deal. I actually kind of like blackouts, at least the first hour or so. It forces you to slow down. I opened a beer, cracked the back door, and stepped onto the covered porch. It was warm and wet out, like the air couldn't decide whether to rain or just sit on your skin. My backyard isn't huge, maybe 40 feet across, fenced on 3 sides with a tall hedge that covers the rear. I have a grill, a patio table, and a motion sensor floodlight that was obviously not working. But then I saw this shape. I thought it was just a dark patch in the bushes, nothing special. But then lightning flashed, and it lit up the yard for a split second. There was someone, something, standing just in front of the hedge. A kid. I blinked hard. I don't have kids, and none of my neighbors have little ones that would be outside this late, especially in a storm. I stepped off the porch and took a few steps into the yard. My flashlight beam wasn't powerful enough to reach, and I didn't want to shout. It was one of those moments where you just wait for your brain to make sense of what you're seeing. Lightning lit up the yard again. Still there. Standing, facing the house. Not moving. No umbrella, not reacting to the rain. I called out, "Hey, you okay? You lost or something?" Nothing. Not even a twitch. I stepped back inside, locked the door, and grabbed my phone to call non-emergency police. No service. Of course. Cell towers must have gone out with the storm. I stood at the kitchen window watching. Still there. My dog, Harley, a rescue mutt who barks at squirrels and pizza delivery guys like his life depends on it, was crouched behind the kitchen table, just staring at the back door with his ears flat. I'd never seen him like that before. I pulled down one of the candles and sat in the living room. Every 10 minutes, I'd peek out, still there, still standing. I thought maybe it was a scarecrow or something someone dragged out as a prank. But who would do that in a storm? And how would they get into my yard? The side gates were chained. I know that for a fact because I'd locked them earlier in the day while mowing. At some point, I must have nodded off. I woke up on the couch around 3 a.m. The power was still out, but the wind had died down. I rushed to the window. Gone. Just like that. The yard was empty. The hedge was still. My grill cover had blown halfway across the lawn and the patio chairs had tipped over. But the spot where the kid had been standing was empty. Harley still refused to go out. The power came back around 9 a.m. I made coffee, gave Harley his food, and tried to forget about it. But I couldn't shake the feeling. So I pulled up the security camera footage from the night before. I have 3 cameras, one facing the front porch, one on the driveway, and one pointed right at the backyard. I scrubbed through the footage. Nothing. Just wind and rain. The trees thrashing, patio chairs falling. No sign of anyone standing in the yard. I watched again. Still nothing. No glitch, no shadow, no distortion, just nothing. I went outside to check the area. The grass was soaked, but there were no footprints, no signs of anyone standing there. And yet, I know what I saw. Harley knew too. He still wouldn't go near the hedge. He circled the yard wide whenever I let him out, giving that back corner a wide berth. 2 weeks later, I finally brought it up to my neighbor Mike while we were grilling. "Hey, did you lose power during that storm?" "Yeah, whole block went dark. Creepy night, huh?" "You see anything weird out back? Like anyone in your yard or mine?" He shook his head. "Nah, didn't even look out there. Why? Someone mess with your place?" I kind of froze for a second. Just watched Harley sniffing around the garden, then veering left again. Same as always. Avoiding that corner like it bit him once. Just thought I saw something, that's all. Probably nothing. Mike nodded like he got it, but I could tell he thought I was imagining things. Maybe I was. Maybe not. Even now, with the lights back on, I can't walk to that part of the yard at night. Not alone. If the creepiest part was how easily it all could have happened to you, you're not alone. Hit that like button, subscribe so you never miss the next scare, and drop what you do in these nightmare scenarios. And if you think working nights just means fewer emails, this next video might keep you clocked in. Click now to watch 4 scary night shift horror stories. Stay alert, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next nightmare.